You learn something new every day if you pay attention. The pre-show talks here on Last Call get better and better with each week. Jake, can you tell us about Wild Rice?
Well, I made a comparison to Wild Rice. I was doubted. I had to prove myself. Wild Rice, the radius at which the seeds fall off the plant allow it to self-spread very well. It's a self-seeding plant.
It's a self-seeding plant. Man, and when it just gets everywhere, it explodes, right? It's all over the place. It's here, there, everywhere, right? We can say that same thing about the Greyhound offense. Hi, this is Last Call. My name's Caden Colford. That's Jake Helton. And we're done talking about any kind of agriculture, but we are going to talk about some good cooking. The Greyhounds, 57-14 against the Truman State Bulldogs. That's a conference rival in Truman State. They kill in their playoff opener, and they get to host for the first time since 2018, making the most of it.
How about 2 touchdowns in their first 4 offensive plays? The Greyhounds came out firing, and there was really no doubt they came out first play offensively. Truman State, they deferred. They won the toss, chose to defer. Wrong decision. Obviously, the Greyhounds come down. They make the score on the first play of the game, a nuke down the field, and it really set the tone for the rest of the game. The Greyhounds shut down any momentum Truman State had. They scored late just to get some points up on the board, but the Greyhounds look great. We can keep talking positive about last week, but we're going to go ahead and stick with the Greyhound mentality and move forward to next week because that's what they're focused on now. Minnesota State Mankato is a tough team to play against. They just beat Findlay, a team that the Greyhounds lost to, and right now, looking at this team, I don't know. It's going to be tough. The Greyhounds did not run the ball well against Truman State, and Mankato has a pretty good defense. The Greyhounds are going to have to get the run game going. They're not going to be as fortunate to be able to get everything through the air this week.
It's not a great game to have on film heading into Minnesota State Mankato next week. However, Truman State is a team that knows you better than anybody else that you're going to play from here on out. So if anybody is going to have the upper hand, scout-wise, film-wise, on the Greyhounds, it would have been Truman State. You're past that. And I don't know if there's any defense that can keep up with the offensive showing that we just saw. I think Ryan Thorpe put it really well in talking to the radio team for Truman State after the game on Saturday. He said that this squad has a puncher's chance against anybody they had to play. And I put Ferris in that conversation. Personally, when you have a defense that can play with anybody, when you have a quarterback who's in Harlan Hill talks, which we'll get to in a second, I think you can play at any level at the Division II point, right? And with behind Gavin Sukup, Coach Kiefer said in the pregame interview, they are going to get everything out of their quarterback.
I just worry because I think about history. I think back to last year. In that playoff game, Grand Valley State was able to shut down Gavin Sukup. They locked up John Lewis in that run game, and that's why the Greyhounds struggled. They only put up 7 points in that game. So the Greyhounds have to do things offensively. The defense is always going to give them a chance. Last year, it was Clay Schulte, Cole Veal. They were in there. They made a ton of plays defensively, gave the Greyhounds a chance in that game, and like you said, they're always going to have a chance. The defense will give them a chance. It's just, can this offense score? If they only look at their 2 main rushers, Garrett Sherrill and Justers Fataki. You look at them, they had 75 yards combined. 75 yards is not going to win you football games. We've seen it at the beginning of the year. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. You can go back to those episodes when they lost to Findlay, when they struggled against Ashland, even against Marion at the beginning of that game. They were struggling to run the ball, and comes back to that offensive line. If they win their battles like they did against Truman State, like they have been the past 5-6 weeks, this team is great. This team is almost unbeatable.
Well, guys like Danny Royster, guys like Alvin Contreras are going to provide those opportunities for Gavin Sukup and his skill groups. The receiving core really had a phenomenal day. Caleb Carver finds his 121 with a touchdown after that 60-yard bomb to open things up. And you can look down the list, and I think this offense does a really great job of scheming everywhere, scheming to every part of the field and every part of their lineup.
Well, this is why the Lions are so good. This is why Alabama, Georgia, any of the great teams, it's why they're so good, is because they have so many weapons that you have to worry about. There's not one receiver on this team that you look at and you say, okay, we got to lock him down. Maybe that's Alonzo Derrick, but then Caleb Carver's going to come out and put up 100 on you. You can't just look at one guy, because if you take away the receiving, the Greyhounds can run the ball. You take away the run game, well, they're going to pass it for 300 yards. And then you can even take away the passing game. Gavin Sukup will get it done on his feet. There's so many different ways that this team gets it done offensively, and that's what makes them a threat against a team like Ferris State, who, when we saw teams give them different offensive looks, like Saginaw Valley State, they're a different offensive team. They gave the Greyhounds trouble last year. They gave Ferris State a little bit of trouble this year, and I think looking at that game, the Greyhounds get a lot of good film out of that. They get a lot of preparation out of that, and then if you beat Minnesota State, you're on an all-time high. You're going to that Super Region 3 championship, coming to take out the reigning champ.
And this is already the best performing team in our time at the University of Indianapolis, the best performing team of anybody that's been in this UIndy program in the last 4 years. You've already reached that point that you wanted to get, that next level, the second round of the D2 playoffs, and now you have a team that you can realistically beat with the chance to play at home, to go play most likely Ferris State. Obviously they have to play, but it's hard to say that anybody other than Ferris State is going to come out on the other side.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Ashland absolutely blew out Minnesota Duluth, who we thought might give them a little bit of trouble. Final score of that game, 32-7, and I don't know. I think Ashland gives Ferris a little bit more trouble than what they're asking for. Ferris didn't finish off the season great. That was a tough game for us. They opened out the first round pretty well, but I think it's going to be a closer game than some people think. Ferris is a really good team, but they're having a little bit of quarterback questions. Their starting quarterback that was in the Harlem Hill conversation is no longer starting for them, so it's a little – there's questions in Ferris right now, but we'll leave it at that. I don't know that the Greyhounds wouldn't like to play Ashland. That would be another home game for the Hounds.
But you do mention the award, the Harlan Hill, the D2 Heisman. That voting opens up today. It's open currently, and Gavin Sukup is someone that is a possible recipient of that award. He has been submitted by the Sports Information Department, and if you're asking us, for a guy that's played 3/4 of a season because his team's been up so much, he is top 5 in touchdowns, top 5 in passing yards, top 5, or he's number 1 in completion percentage in the country. And all of this is while playing 3/4 a game. Could you make the case any better than that for Gavin Sukup?
I think he presents one of the best cases. There's another Minnesota school, Minnesota State Moorhead, who has a great quarterback wide receiver duo, and I think they pose a little bit of threat to Sukup in this race, but he puts up a great challenge to him, and considering that team did not make the playoffs, Gavin Sukup just won a playoff game. I don't know, that's got to play a little bit into that, I think.
We're pulling for Gavin Sukup in the Harlan Hill Watch. But moving down the list in terms of Greyhound success, while the soccer team falls short in the GLVC conference tourney, 0-1 to Maryville, they step it up and play McKendree to open up the Division II Regional, where they win 4-3, a huge win, but a tough draw in their second matchup, playing number 4 in all the land in Fort Hays State. That was a game where they traveled to Hays, Kansas for that opening round of the tournament. They lose 3-0, but to make it to this point in the season, always commendable, living up to that same Greyhound standard, that same Greyhound level of success at this point in what should be a fall sport, now in winter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's almost expectation to make it to the postseason for every sport here, and everybody in a Greyhound uniform expects to be playing past their season and into winter in this case for both football and soccer. It was a great season, as you said, but a tough draw, and sometimes that happens. You got to go play one of the best teams in the nation, and you look at their record, they're a pretty tough squad. They beat a couple good teams throughout the season. It was a tough task, and they put up a good fight, but I think next year they're also going to have a very solid squad and a chance to maybe even take out a team like Fort Hays.
Here's to next year. And for basketball, as they just get started, there's still time to correct the ship for Coach Jameis Sharp and this women's team. 0-4 as it sits, but 3 of those losses within single digits. One of those 2 at one point number 6 in the country. Ashland, Walsh, a good team at home. You were down by 11 with 4 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the game. And somehow you go to overtime and you lose 75-68, and then another close one at Ursuline, 66-62. They're right there.
It seemed like it was like that last year. It just took them a couple of weeks, maybe a month into the season to get things figured out. And I think it is a lot of chemistry. We talk about this team not playing a ton together. A lot of these players haven't actually played Division II basketball all that much. bringing in some transfers, especially Gracie Poe, a senior. You have Amira Sappinder in her graduate student year. You're getting a lot of experience back on this team, and you're just going to continue to see them get better. But it starts today at Thomas More. They got a game at 6. It's got to happen today. You got to get that first win on the road. This would be a big one, considering that the men's team just lost to them. You got to get a little bit of revenge.
Looking at their last game, Autumn Rucker scoring 18 with 3 rebounds. Patricia Chikamba also chipping in double figures, 16 points for herself in that game. It's been a lot of Chikamba, a lot of Autumn Rucker, and Gracie Poe really adding to that scoring total alongside Amira Sappinder. Who are you looking at as a leader on this team?
It's got to be Sappinder. It also has to be Poe. They're kind of the leaders, the point guards of this team, and that's where we've seen them struggle from year to year. They don't necessarily have a traditional point guard. Gracie Poe is not exactly a point guard. She wasn't at her last school. That's not where she's used to playing, so you got to get her used to it and up to speed. Taylor Van Meter's a new player. We saw her start in that game against Walsh, and she's going to continue to get more and more minutes as a freshman. She's only going to get better and better. This team just needs a little bit more time. I think the same way the Pacers need time with injury, this team just needs a little bit of time with development. But like you said, they're right there.
In the men's squad, while they do pick up their first win against Earlham College on Wednesday, they won 95-65. They fall to Thomas More just a few days ago on Alumni Day, 83-78. And they were down pretty big in this game, but they come back, make it really close. It was hard to seal the deal.
And I think it's kind of the same thing that we talked about with the first 2 games. They had a bad stretch with about 8 minutes to go in that first half, and that's where you see them get down by double digits. In this case, it was 15 at the half. They allowed 50 points in the first half. It's going to be tough to come back in any game like that. And we got to talk with assistant coach Mark Bailey, and he kind of told us that this was a game that they definitely think they should have won. In the first half, their guard, Kai Simpson, played phenomenally. I think he had 16 in the first half, only 2 in the second half. It seems as though the halftime adjustments, as always, are there for Coach Hetty. Just got to get things going and keep things going through that first half, because it seems like there's a little bit of a fall off in the waning minutes of the first half, and they get down, and it's hard to dig yourself out of that hole sometimes.
But looking at Carmelo Harris, he's a name that we're starting to see work back up, heat back up, 26-6 on the night against Thomas More. Obviously, we've seen him do it for this UIndy squad. We've seen him put the ball in the bucket, and as he continues to progress and continues to get better, what's that mean for this Greyhound offense?
Well, they're just going to keep scoring more and more points. I think a guy that you really want to see continue to improve is Kelvin Amoko. While he improved shooting, he still has to work on the passing. That's something that I talked to Coach Hetty before that game. He's looking for Amoko to improve in the passing game, because the better he gets, the more he turns into a Jokic. The defense collapses. He's able to find whoever he wants. That's what Coach Hetty wants out of Kelvin Amoko. He doesn't necessarily have to score 10 points, 20 points, although that's nice. He would rather have 10, 5, and 5. I think that's exactly what you're looking for out of him. Get 5 rebounds, get 5 assists. That's 5 extra baskets for other people on the court. And he also did a great job of rebounding in that Thomas More game, in a game where you see a lot of height. Those guards were all 6'5", all the way around. They had one guy under 6'5" on that team.
Tough matchups, and Nikola Jokic would be great to build for the Greyhounds. You know, I'm a big Jokic guy. Apparently, Freddie's not. But we're not going to talk centers today. We'll talk some Indiana Pacers basketball. That's later to come. Up next, we're going to talk Purdue and IU on the hardwood.
Okay, guys, seriously, basketball and hockey have got to be the best sports around. Speed, skill, drama, 7-game series. They have got it all.
Nah, baseball is the best sport, and that's just a fact, Jace.
You guys are both wrong. It's 100% football. You guys need to get on the football train.
Everyone stop. Why fight now when you can watch us debate on Grand Slam Sports on YouTube on Fridays at 6 p.m. or on Xfinity Channel 1096.
Indiana basketball, north, south, in between, looking pretty good. We'll start up in West Lafayette, where Braden Smith entered the year as a preseason All-American alongside Trey Kaufman-Renn, and he was in talks for National Player of the Year. Well, we're 6 games into the year for Purdue. They're perfect at 6-0, but Braden Smith not seeing the numbers that some might anticipate for someone who might acquire that Naismith title.
I would agree, but also disagree. I don't think we're asking the question of, is Braden Smith still good? He's still a great player, and there's no question about that at all. He's still in all these conversations. But you just got to look at the shooting. I think that's what's really taken a step back this year is you look at his stats, 36% from the field. He had a game against Memphis. He only had 5 points. He shot 14% from the field, 17% from the three-point line. That's not necessarily going to win you that award considering how many great players are in college basketball. I think that's the question that we're kind of looking at today is he still up there with so many of these great players? You're going to have DeBonce, you're going to have Boozer, you're going to have Patterson from Kansas. There's so many different
You have
people.
Trey Kaufman right on the same team that you're competing with.
Exactly. There's so many different guys on this or in this conversation that you have to be elite. And right now he's not scoring at an elite level. The assists are about the same as they were last year. It's just the scoring and even the rebounding that's kind of taken a hit this year.
And he's looking at 14, almost 9 assists, which is second in the country right now, and near 4 rebounds, which is very, very good for the Purdue one. When you ask, is he necessarily the favorite in this race? No, not at this point. Is he still in the talk? Yeah, and I think he will be, at least for the next few weeks. With scorers and shooters on this scale, you're bound to have a few bad games. And when you play on the number 1 team in the country, you're not the only guy, right? You're looking at guys like Trey Kaufman-Renn that you got to get shots. C.J. Cox is going to put up a few. Ja'Kari Harris, who we saw play against the University of Indianapolis, is going to need his touches with a new big man as well. So obviously, Braden Smith has a role in this Matt Painter offense and this Purdue offense. And it's not necessarily in the job description right now to go win Player of the Year. I feel like if he wins, that's going to be a byproduct. And a lot of that is due to the fact that Braden Smith isn't called on to score as much as other guys who are in this spot are.
Well, Matt Painter talks about it all the time. There's not many guys that put on the Purdue uniform that don't leave with a conference championship, that don't leave with a couple of playoff wins. That's what the goal is right now. Get to the playoffs and win that national championship. I don't think that they care at all about Player of the Year. This is just a conversation we're having because there's so many great players in basketball this year that award would mean so much more for Braden Smith and would honestly maybe be the difference between him getting being a draft pick and not being a draft pick. And that's something you got to think about for him in the future. It's something that Coach Painter's thinking about. You got to make all your players look good. You want them to go play in the NBA. I look at the game against Alabama. He had 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. You look at the rest of the games, they're not playing great competition, and I know this for myself. Sometimes when I played in high school, I played down to competition. My team, we played down, and I think that's kind of – you don't even see Purdue playing down. It might just be that Braden Smith doesn't need to try as hard, and I think that's kind of –
And you can check the minutes, too. He's not playing as much in these first 6 games compared to his prior 3 seasons at Purdue due to the level of competition that Jake's talking about. So a lot of it is that he's not seeing his normal rotation, right? Not seeing his usual time on the floor. And with that, your shooting rhythm can be afflicted, can be affected. So I think when we ask, is this guy deserving? And we look at those big games like Alabama, with more of those games to come in a tough Big Ten that we're going to continue to talk about, Braden Smith's scoring will improve. I see that 14 that he's at right now, I definitely see it sitting near 18-20 by the time this season is over, just due to the magnitude of big games that his team and his offense are going to have to play.
I mean, we are still 6 games into the season. The thing, I guess, is that Braden Smith is not looking for his shot this year. That's the difference between last year and this year. When he gets into the paint, he's looking to dish more than he's looking to shoot. Sometimes that bids you well, and then sometimes you need to take that shot. There's times where he gets down low in the paint and dishes it off, and I'm like, why would you not just shoot that layup? He used to shoot that fadeaway from about 3-4 feet away. He was great at that last year. Haven't seen it as much this year. I just think he needs to look for his shot a little bit more. That's the difference between A.J. DeBonce and maybe a Cam Boozer. They're looking for their shot. They're going to get 20, 30 points a game. He's got to compete with that. Assist is not going to win him. We've seen it over the past couple years. They want points.
In a nationwide award, I mean, people want to see the 35, 40-point game on average, right? And on his team, Trey Kaufman-Renn, don't look now, he's putting up 15, 12, and near 3 assists as well. And that already looks like a stat line that could contend for Player of the Year, too.
I've told people to watch out for him since my sophomore year of high school when he put up 30 points against us. I mean, it was ridiculous. I've never seen someone be able to score with such ease as he did in high school. It was literally a giant playing with little children. It was insane to watch him play in high school. Now to see him do the same thing to Alabama, to Texas Tech, it's insane to see it go to the next level. I think he's going to probably, maybe not be drafted, but he could go play in the G League or maybe even play overseas and be a great player. I think he's in this conversation, though.
Purdue basketball sitting at number 1, if you ask me, right where they should be in the college basketball landscape. But we take a look back to the latter half of that top 25, the AP poll. You'll see some Crimson and Cream creep in right at 24-25. IU led by new coach Ben DeVries, moving over from West Virginia. This is a new era of IU basketball. And it's definitely a different look, but they start their season well. They're perfect to this point, have not played anybody that anybody would really recognize aside from Marquette. But even against Marquette, they get a huge win, 100-77. We're trying to figure out this IU team, but so far they look good.
No, they look absolutely phenomenal, but like you said, not exactly the best level of competition. I was surprised to see that Marquette score, but I don't think they're as good as they have been in recent years. Not the team that they were at least last year. You look at the schedule coming up, though. Tomorrow they're going to play Kansas State. That's a game that you probably want to keep an eye on. If they win that one, then you might start raising some eyebrows. But, I mean, they got to go through Louisville. They got to play Kentucky. They play Purdue 2 times a year. They got to play Illinois, and then they have to play Michigan State twice. It is a brutal schedule for IU. If they're able to make it through that, they're easily a playoff team and easily a team that's going to compete for that spot. But right now, just the way that I've seen them play, I have them on the bubble.
And you mentioned the rest of the Big Ten. Purdue at number 1, Michigan 17 in the country right now, or Michigan State 17. Michigan is 7, talking about the blue there. UCLA 19, Wisconsin 23rd, Illinois is 8th, right? And these are teams that, like you said, you're going to have to see once, if not twice, throughout the season. So IU, good now, but as we talk about these UIndy teams, you're also throwing a lot of guys in together that haven't necessarily played with each other. You have a few West Virginia guys, including Tucker DeVries, the son of Coach Ben DeVries, who's been playing really, really well. He's coming off of a 27-point performance, and he looks great from 3, but when you stack up against National Player of the Year candidates, we'll see how good that really is.
That's exactly. I can't wait for that game against Purdue because I want to see how they face Trey Kaufman, how they handle Fletcher Lawyer from the three-point line. I mean, Purdue's a great three-point shooting team. How does IU handle that? I don't know. It's going to be a great year for the Big Ten. I was talking about watching for the Big 12. I don't know. The Big Ten might be the better conference this year.
I think so. And for IU, it's a little different, right? Especially with a team that's so big dominant in Purdue and how they've always been. There's no Omar Ballo no more for IU. You're looking for a real big body that can stop 2 guys on the floor and 1 guy off the bench in Jacobson that can really give you nightmares on any given night.
Yeah, nightmares all around, and I'd say we could continue those nightmares when we talk about the Colts. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Colts lose to the Chiefs. I think we were probably expecting a win. At least I was. I was expecting a big Jonathan Taylor game. I thought he was going to dice this Chiefs defense up, but we saw the Chiefs defense of the past, apparently. They decided to show up out of nowhere, and a great run defense, at least in the first half, because they didn't have to in the second half. Jonathan Taylor, he had 1 touch in the fourth quarter. What are we doing?
Well, guys, we had this game in the Pick Em last week, and I said I hate to ruin everybody's parade and rain on everybody's afternoon. And everybody said, oh my gosh. We played Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead in Kansas City. And was it a game that you should have won? Yeah. But you're also putting your coach and Shane Steichen against the coach and Andy Reid at home. And Steichen.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter who they were playing. You could have put the UIndy Greyhounds up on them, playing against them, and it wouldn't have mattered. Shane Steichen, it's like the Colts are playing against Shane Steichen every week. It's like he's trying to ruin the season. How does Jonathan Taylor touch the ball 1 time in the fourth quarter? You have an 11-point lead. How do you blow it? Well, they got chiefed. I mean, that's just what the Chiefs do. They got chiefed.
Well, compare it to this. Jonathan Taylor, who is, I would say unanimously, the best running back in the league right now, 16 carries for 58 yards. We look to his counterpart on the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt. You remember Kareem Hunt, right? We all remember Kareem Hunt. Maybe not all for the right reasons, but we know who Kareem Hunt is, right? 30 carries, double Jonathan Taylor with 104 yards and a touchdown. That can't happen.
It just seems like you put a little bit of pressure on Daniel Jones and he falls over. There was no pressure in the first half, and they were talking about it in the halftime show. They were like, don't be surprised whenever the Colts can't do anything in the second half because they dial up the pressure. It's exactly what they do, and the Colts have to be better in the second half. It's adjustments. We saw it. They don't make adjustments until the fourth quarter. And today they didn't, or yesterday they didn't even make adjustments at all. Give up 11 points in the fourth quarter to a team that is on the way down. They were 500. I'm not high on the Chiefs right now, but they come out and beat the Colts in a game that I think they, as you said, should have won. There's no way you give up 11 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, you keep the Chiefs under 50% on third down. I think the defense won. I think the defense played better than Kansas City today. Kansas City only scores 20 points in 4 quarters with a Patrick Mahomes-led offense and some solid skill guys as well. I think it's 100% on the offense, and I put a lot of that blame on the scheme and on Shane Steichen himself. But your defense limits a lot of guys are going to call Patrick Mahomes the best quarterback ever to 20 points in 4 quarters at home. The defense did everything that they could today, and the offense did not hold up their end of the bargain.
I mean, I would have to agree. And you also can't look at this game and not blame it a little bit on Jonathan Taylor. He touched the ball 16 times and only had 58 yards. I get it, the line didn't do the best, and the Chiefs' run defense is pretty solid, but Jonathan Taylor, we're talking about being the best running back in the league, can't have a game under 100 yards. Got to get to that century mark, and that just helps out Daniel Jones. They really needed the run game in the second half, and it was not there. That's why they fall.
Well, for the Colts, don't worry. We play the Texans next week. I think everything is going to be okay, and then after that, you're going to have to go to Jacksonville, where Indianapolis just can't win ever in Jacksonville, but we are 8-3, a solid bid into the season. Thanksgiving on Thursday, and I'm thankful the Colts have a winning record in November. We can't always say this.
I think a lot of people are thankful that they have a winning record. Let's not dwell on this game too long because, like you said, a tough game though. The Texans are getting better and better. We've kind of slept on them a little bit. I think you and I.
I'm still sleeping.
I think they're getting a little bit better. They're going to give the Colts a challenge.
All right, that'll wake me up. Don't wake me up. That's Sunday at 1. We're expecting the Colts to pull that one out, but I guess maybe not, as we'll roll into some basketball talk. Hop off the field and hop on the court. And we're talking the Pacers. Look, we may not enjoy the season that they're having to this point, but we're working off of a finals appearance last year and a rich history of Indiana basketball. We are talking our top 5 Pacers of all time here today on Last Call.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You got first?
I got it first? Okay. All right.
So
we're going to look at my 5 here.
Okay.
And let's start. We'll work backwards in. Rick Smits. If you go to a Pacer game, you're still going to see Rick Smits at every contest. I love Rick Smits as a player. Love him as a guy. We'll move down the list. Paul George, while his time in Indy was fun, I think his exit was a little shady at times. I think he has to be in this top 5 somewhere, depending on where you put him. He was too good. He was playing against one of the best teams that the East had ever seen in the LeBron James Big Three with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Held his own. This is a young PG as well. And honestly, I wouldn't kill you if you had him over Jermaine O'Neal. But Jermaine O'Neal's time in Indy goes way underrepresented, under-talked about. He was as dominant a force as Indiana has ever seen down low. And, man, I wish we had a Jermaine O'Neal right now. But fact is, we don't. And then we get to these two. And this is where we're going to have a lot of talk today. We see that same pose. And while Reggie laid the groundwork, I think Tyrese Halliburton is going to take this Pacers team to the promised land. Believe it or not, he was 30 minutes away from doing it just a few months ago.
And I think that's why you'll see the difference on mine because of what he's going to do. I see the potential, just hasn't done it yet. So I love the list, and you're going to see we're pretty similar. I might be a little bit more fond of Paul George and a little bit more generous on those 3 losses. I think the Pacers might have 2 finals. I think they might have won 2 finals if they didn't have to go up against LeBron in that Big Three. That's just the way I look at it. Two conference finals that they lose to the Heat. I don't know. Let's go ahead and take a look at mine. I like that Tyrese Halliburton is up there, but I throw Tyrese at 5 because
5? Were you not? Come on.
I would honestly, now looking at it, I would switch those two. I feel like that's a little bit, I'm being a hater.
Your statement is made.
But you look back to how we were talking about him at the beginning of last year. You look at some of the games he had during the playoffs. I get that he won them a lot of games. He's the reason they made it to Game 7, but they didn't win. And he also had games where he scored 4 points. He just isn't necessarily a superstar every single game until he comes back and wins Indy a championship. I don't know that he gets up there past a couple of those guys. But I would say Tyrese Halliburton, number 4. We'll switch him with Schmitz. The Dunking Dutchman, I just love the nickname. I feel like that's why I had to throw him on there. There are a couple of guys. I was honestly thinking about Victor Oladipo, throwing him on there. I know he didn't spend too much time here.
Honorable mention to Depot.
I saw him airball a 3 on Instagram. He's playing overseas now, and I was like, I'm not throwing him on there. Jermaine O'Neal, Malice of the Palace. I feel like that's the main reason people remember him in an Indy uniform. But like you said, Pacers really could use an enforcer right now. We'll get to the top 2. I got Paul George on there. Like I said, because of those playoff runs, Paul George had his best years with the Pacers. Ever since he left the Pacers, I don't think he's been half of what he was when he was with the Pacers. And then Reggie Miller is Pacers basketball. When you think about Pacers, you think about Reggie Miller, you think about that iconic 2 hands, and it's got to be Reggie Miller.
You know. Look, but Reggie just didn't.
What are you talking about?
Whoa.
Whoa. He leads the franchise in just about every single scoring, shooting record. He's on the 75th All-NBA anniversary team, 3-time All-NBA, I think 6-time All-Star. He has everything that Tyrese Halliburton probably will have, and maybe plus a championship, but he's just not there yet, and that's why I have him back down there.
But, Jake, I sat there as an Indiana basketball fan, one of the biggest Indiana basketball fans. I've watched the Pacers since I was old enough to watch it, right? Since I was old enough to open my eyes. The Pacer game was on in the living room, right? And I'd never seen a Pacer, even if I was alive to watch Reggie Miller do it. I've never seen a Pacer take them to the finals, let alone taking them Game 7 against a team that won 50 games.
I completely understand that, but
he also hit a game winner in the first round, and a game winner in the second round, and a game winner in the third round, and a game winner in the finals.
And but it's game winners. It's not, that doesn't make you the best player of all time because you can show up in a moment. I mean, you could probably name
the moment that makes you the best, because when it comes down to it, it only matters about the final buzzer.
Why isn't Paul Pierce in the greatest of all time conversation? He's the greatest clutch player of all time.
Let's be for real.
You give Paul Pierce the ball with 10 seconds on the clock, he's getting you a bucket.
Let's
talking
be
about
for real.
Andre
We're talking about
Iguodala. Paul Pierce. Anyway, all right, we're not talking about Paul Pierce. Reggie Miller and Paul George, I think that I look at their runs, and Tyrese Halliburton just hasn't done enough for me to get past a couple of those guys. Iconic members. Reggie Miller made the Pacers relevant. Paul George revived the Pacers, in my opinion, and then Jermaine O'Neal kind of kept them going. He had 6 playoff appearances in his time in a Pacers uniform. Rick Schmidt, he's just a dog. Throw him on there. They would die for a Rick Schmidt right now in Indy. And then Tyrese Halliburton. I have him where I have him because I think he can do more.
I think he can do more too, but I think he's already done so much. I think he's already done so much.
But you're talking about one good year.
And you have Paul George in front of him. He went further than Paul George, and I understand.
One time.
That's all that matters. He did it one time. Okay. I can win the finals one time. You still won it more than Russell Westbrook and Charles Barkley and everybody else.
I mean, I see where you're coming from, but that's just not, I don't value the almost as much as you do, I guess.
All right. Call it the almost. The almost. What could have been? If Tyrese Halliburton goes and wins that seventh game, is he number one?
Way up there, yeah. He's probably number one. Yeah, I would have to agree with you. If he won it, he's number one. But right now, he's not. He didn't win it. That's a what if. What if? What if the Pacers won the championship the last 10 years in a row? They didn't. We can play what if all day, Kate. It doesn't matter because it didn't happen.
I know that first round and second round and third round, and that first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth game happened last year. I watched it with my own 2 eyes. But we can leave it. We can leave it. Tyrese Halliburton below 3 is criminal.
You can say the same thing about all of these guys. Those playoff runs didn't happen without Reggie Miller. They didn't happen without Paul George. They didn't make it to the playoffs without a Jermaine O'Neal enforcing down there. That team was not great.
All right, let's settle it in the pick 'em. Okay? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on the slate. I know I took the Colts matchup last week, but we'll start in the NBA today. Pistons going to Boston. And me personally, why not? Why not, right? I have a lead. I'll throw myself out there a little bit. I'll take Caden and them, the Pistons. We're playing good basketball. Cade's taking the most shots I've ever seen anybody ever take. So if Cade's hot, this team's hot, and I think they go win.
It's an interesting approach that the Pistons are taking this year. I think the Celtics at home, though. I mean, last year they lost like 2 games at home. Obviously not the same team, but I think they continue to win at home.
Rockets at Warriors is our second look. Jake, I'll roll out the red carpet for you to choose between 2 West Conference foes.
I'm going to go Warriors. I think Steph Curry's playing good. The Rockets are a tough squad. Kevin Durant can score the ball. I'll sit here and say he's the best scorer of all time, but I think that Warriors probably win this one.
I like the road Warriors against the Warriors. The Rockets wearing red with KD. Alperen Sengun's having yet another great season. And I feel like just as a career, as a broadcaster, I've always underrepresented and undervalued the Rockets for the brand of basketball that they play. And we forget about, Witch Thompson twin. Do you know Witch Thompson twin?
I do not.
I'm pretty sure it's Amen. It's Amen Thompson.
One of them's on Detroit, one of them's on the Rockets.
Oh, I know that. But we're going to go with the Rockets.
I haven't really paid much attention to the Rockets since James Harden left, just because I was upset that he left. That was my favorite brand of basketball. Him versus the Warriors, it doesn't get much better than that. And I'm going to go with I'm going to stick with it. I almost changed my mind. I'm going to go Warriors.
Okay. Packers and Lions battle in the NFC North, and somehow the Bears are leading the division right now. If you haven't seen it, somehow these two are sitting second and third, and obviously the Vikings in there at fourth. Packers got a win yesterday, and I'm rolling with Green Bay. But
there was definitely something in my pants watching that Lions game. They almost lost to, they almost lost to the Giants. I know that sounded wrong. It's not exactly what I meant. I meant crap in my pants. But either way, they went into overtime against the Giants, and I talked all that crap last week about them not even showing up, whatever the case was. But the Lions haven't been showing up, and I think the Packers are going to show up and maybe become the front runner of that division, because our next pick, I'm not going with the Bears.
They better show up, because if the Bears beat the Eagles on Friday, there's going to be an uprising. There will be an uprising. Eagles blew a 20-point lead to the Cowboys last night, and they'll have to host the red-hot Chicago Bears. The Bears, do they win?
No. I think this is Bears fashion. You get on this hot streak, and then you lose it to the Eagles. Coming off a bad loss to the Cowboys, but it was just – they shut down in the second half. I'm not exactly sure what happened. Dallas just stepped it up. Saquon fumbled. They fumbled a punt or muffed a punt. Nothing was going right in the second half for the Eagles. But I think things turn around. The Bears are going to be the Bears on the road. Eagles get it done at home.
Let's roll with them. Let's roll with those Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. And hopefully Colts can roll into a win after a devastating loss in Arrowhead. They'll play the Texans on Sunday. Jake, are you going to make it easy on us, or are you choosing against the Colts here today?
Nope, I'm going with the Colts. Just going to make it nice and simple. Now, at home, I think they stand a little bit better of a chance. I think that also plays into that fourth quarter collapse. That stadium got a little bit loud in the fourth quarter when the Chiefs started coming back, and I think that might have maybe intimidated the Colts offense a little bit. At home, though, it's a different ball game. Let's go Colts.
Let's go Colts. I do think they win against the division rival in the Texans. Texans historically don't play too well inside Lucas Oil. We'll hope that persists. How about a drum roll and some records after our 5 this week? We're still sitting at that 2-game margin, but I took a couple chances, I think, on the Pistons and the Rockets on the road.
Yeah, that Pistons pick might pay off for you, but I think the Warriors got it. The Warriors look pretty solid this year, and they're not the Warriors of past, but Al Horford always makes the team better.
Yeah, doesn't he? I've been talking about Al Horford since my freshman year on this show, and I've been calling him old all 4 years, and somehow he is still kicking in the National Basketball Association. Here is to Al Horford. I am thankful for Al Horford in the NBA. Jake, what are you thankful for heading into Thanksgiving?
Thankful for last call. Thank you for everybody that keeps us up and on the air behind the cameras. You guys don't see them. Maybe you'll get to see them next week, but thankful for everybody back there in the studio.
Thankful for UIndy TV. Thankful for the University of Indianapolis. Thankful for good Greyhound football as they continue and go play Minnesota State on Saturday. Hey, remember to be thankful and say thank you on Thanksgiving. Eat well. God bless.